Welcome to the Data Engineering Central podcast. I'm Daniel Beach, your host. Today we're going to talk to Tom. What's going on, Tom?
How's it going, Dan? How are you?
Good. So, what would people call you? Like, what would you call yourself? Business
Uh,
intelligence, data engineer, data analyst, everything data. How long have you been doing data? What would you call yourself?
I typically tend to label myself as more of a data enthusiast. I've touched all the roles. I've analytics, uh, DBA, data engineer, data analyst, analytics engineer. So more of a data enthusiast just because I love the data space in general. If if that makes sense.
That's nice. Tell me about the first time you got into data, or maybe take me all the way back to the beginning. How did you decide? How did you get into tech, whatever you want to call it? What was like your
Yep.
How did you go from nothing to tech to data? Take me through that journey from the beginning, from little Tom.
If we're going way back, my first introduction to tech, well, as everybody my age, was like you were playing Oregon Trail, or you were doing the turtle on the green screen with a Commodore 64. But my true introduction was actually Pascal class in high school, introduction to Pascal. So that was my first introduction to like programming, so to speak.
In Colorado?
Yep, out in Denver, Colorado, at Regis Jesuit High School. Um,
Sounds scary.
it was interesting. Pascal is definitely it definitely ages me talking about Pascal for sure because it's something that most kids haven't heard of, but it was definitely an introductory type of platform way back in the day. And then from there,
Like, what did you do in college then? You went to
yep,
college in the
went
Midwest,
to
and what did you
college.
study?
Uh, I studied MIS as my second
Okay,
bachelor,
there you go.
and that
What
took me into
year ish?
that started in 90, so from 98 to 2000, because it was my second BA. I was going to do an MBA, didn't have enough business classes. And they're like, well, you need a pre-MBA class. You need your pre-MBA track. So I'm taking economics and intro to tech at the same time, and intro to tech was much more interesting than like full-time econ and accounting. So I moved from pre-MBA to MIS, database classes, cold fusion,
Full
uh,
Fusion, holy buckets.
Um, SQL was definitely like that caught my interest right away. When it came to like my tech classes, SQL
What
was
were they? Do you remember? Was it like a MySQL, SQL Server way, way, way back then?
no
Was
way
it just
back then.
like
In that class, it was Access. So we were doing
Access? Yeah,
Microsoft Access, a little bit of Oracle because Oracle had like
sure.
a free platform back then, just trying to get people. But it was just SQL in general was what I absolutely enjoyed compared to like C Sharp
Mm-hmm.
or VB. VB was actually my true first professional
Me too.
programming, VB6. So at Principal Financial Group, that was my first career as an IT analyst. Is what I was hired out of college.
Oh, so that's my question. So out of college, you went straight into IT then?
Yep, yep. So I was hired as an IT analyst for the international division of Principal.
Do you think there's anybody out there today that still has the title of IT analyst?
Oh,
You
100%.
think so?
Yeah, yep.
But they're
It's
probably like an admin. It's like a slash admin programming, or like like you're in charge of this application configuration. What did you do?
so I wasn't doing like true development. I was as an IT analyst. I was more of a consultant for our international offices. They used a specific general ledger accounting system at Principal International, and it was mandated that the internet, well, not mandated, but it was highly recommended that the international offices in Mexico, Argentina, Brazil, India use this software as well. So I was the subject matter expert for that solution and had to work with them to implement it on their side, which also required some development using like Crystal reports, so writing SQL to provide those analytics as an output, also writing VB6 for some of the modules that they needed. But I had to know the software, like the third party solution, in terms of its configuration. So general ledger stuff, cost allocations, fixed assets. So still a lot of business, just not specific like economics. I had to, going back to accounting though, debits and credits, understanding that information. So understanding the business side of things as well as learning the technology to help them. So a lot of it was housed on SQL Server. So I got introduced to SQL Server at that point in the time, stored procedures, views. Um,
So how is it? That was my next question. Is like, so I'm assuming DBA was like the next sort of
that became the next.
people
Uh,
don't even. I bet there's people watching this or will hear this or watch this, listen to it, and they'll be like, "What's a DBA?"
that
You
was
don't
my
hear much about it anyway.
that was my next step though. So that was again, I'm going to age myself, but that was 2008 because the economy at that point in time was the first tech bubble, and it crashed. So I was let go from principal and joined a small technology company in the Des Moines area. And they gave me an opportunity as an introductory, like an entry level database administrator.
For
So
SQL Server.
for SQL Server, correct. Well, initially SQL Server, I also had to one get SQL Server certified. I then also had to learn DB2 because we had solutions for some of the medical record systems for some of the. Um, so this company writes software for um, departments of corrections. So we worked for Department of Justice. We worked for different states, Iowa, California, Michigan, etc. So prison systems but medical records, right? You have your doctors that are at the prisons, and so some of the medical records. So those solutions were all on DB2. So I actually got DB2 certified and had to work as a DBA for SQL Server and DB2. So that's where I learned a lot of uh, database internals, whether it's from a like a query perspective or HADR, disaster recovery, redundancy. So I
My first, I think the very first certification I got was the MTA. Do you remember that? The Microsoft had like a database fundamentals, T-SQL, MTA. So that was like that was the first one I ever did.
I don't remember that one specifically. I think it was MSDBA was, if I'm not I don't know. That was so long ago. Um,
That's back when I used to listen to Brent Ozar. All right, the Brent Ozar days
oh
of
yeah.
prime time. Brent Ozar, SQL Server Radio.
Yep.
I don't know if you
SP
remember
Blitz.
that. I don't. I wonder if it's still there.
Oh,
Those
he's still
guys
out.
from Israel.
He is still out there. He is.
They still have that beautiful accent? I don't know. I used to listen to that all the time. It's funny
Yep.
stuff.
No, he's still out there. He's still doing what he does, and his solutions for like his free solution for like database administration in terms of like SQL tuning. Um, a lot of those troubleshooting scripts are still available. Actually, they're all in GitHub now, so you can go find them.
Who's the
Yep.
other guy? I'm gonna look him up because I'm actually gonna interview him like sort of soon ish.
What, Randall or
No, there's another guy. This is embarrassing because I should.
especially since the fact that you're going to interview him, the fact that you don't know his name.
Well, I've followed him forever, for like ever. He's like the classic SSIS expert. Andy Leonard,
Why don't I know that name?
like the SSIS expert.
Yeah, Brent Ozar still got his site. Um, he's got his picture up there right now with his little coffee mug in his hand as his avatar.
Yeah, I follow him on LinkedIn, and every once he
Oh yeah.
I think he's. I feel like he's in the sunset because I'll see him post stuff like I'm in Iceland doing
Well, he's just
living off my royalties from SP something.
SP Blitz.
Yeah, right.
SQL Server First Responder Kit. That's the big one. But he's similar to what you see with Zach Wilson nowadays. Is he's got training, he's
Mm.
got
Yeah,
courses and things along those lines where he's definitely like set that foundation and just updates it as environments grow. So like what SQL Server 2025 just came out, I'm sure he'll update some content and provide that solution for them to come through and pay for that new training, etc. So
I want to talk about something interesting next because when I met you, I would say that was like, it seems like if I look back on it now, that was like the time when the data world was like shifting. It was moving from when I met you, you were a SQL Server savant. And at that time, the world was shifting. I don't think
From
we
life
knew
and
it
stuff, of
then,
course. Yeah.
but like that's when Redshift started to come out way back. Like Athena, I think had just come out.
Oh yeah.
Like EMR had been a thing, but wasn't really. It was like kind of, not really.
That was when we first met, was like when Hadoop and the distributed environment sort of landscape was really starting
Changing
to
fast, yeah.
take off. And
BigQuery was coming out. Like it was all just changing very quickly from data warehouses. Because I remember the job I had before I met you. It was
Craig,
like I would still go to these what they would call business intelligence groups at like Principal and other places, and it was still all about like SQL Server, Postgres. Like that's how analytics and data was happening then. That was like I think the data lake shift was just happening then, right? Like,
yeah,
oh, you can store all this stuff in Parquet and S3 and use Athena to get analytics. It was just interesting.
it
And you've
was
seen it
definitely
all.
on the analytics side because it's still back then ACID transactions were not like
I
something
think
that the distributed environment could handle. It didn't exist, and that's come a long way. So it's a very different world nowadays for sure. But yeah, gosh, I started with SQL Server, started with Microsoft environment. I was definitely heavy on that side of it, and jumped into at Douala, jumped into a completely different landscape. Yeah, as a startup. A lot of open source solutions, a lot of like, what can we use that's not going to cost us an arm and a leg because we don't have the revenue. So now I'm jumping into MongoDB, MySQL, Postgres, SQL Server. Um, and then once we migrated to AWS, then we started to dabble into things like Elasticache and uh, Docker became big at that point in time, and
do you think people are missing if you think about like data that would shift from like data warehouse Kimball to like the lake house today with Snowflake or Databricks. And back when we were started doing things, it was just a different world, right? Like data models were everything, data types were everything because you had to, or things would break, they wouldn't work. Where now it's like, I don't feel like people. Do you think it's a bad thing they don't have to know that? Like it's totally changed. It's like they don't.
do
Doesn't.
they? I mean, you say that they don't have to know that,
Well,
or are
a
they
lot
just
of them don't. It seems like
they're
it's not a thing.
not to know that? They just run at a wall and just like hope to crash
Yeah,
through.
yeah. Like you can just
A lot
use
of
a
times,
notebook with
right?
compute. You don't need to. You can just throw more compute at it. Like the data warehouse toolkit is not a. It's still a thing to some people, but to some people, Kimball's just a name to them. They don't really.
I would definitely say that that is like a gap between newer data professionals and more experienced data professionals. Is I'll take time to think about the end solution and work my way back, as opposed to starting where I'm at and going and then fixing things along the way. We've both been doing this long enough. We understand some of those hurdles that we have to address before we get to them. Otherwise, it's one, things are going to be slow. Two, it's going to be expensive because now you're paying for compute as opposed to just a license. Um, you're no longer, heck, back in the day, all of our hardware was on site. So you added RAM or you added disk. Now you just tell it to grow
It's auto
as
scale. You
it
don't have to
needs,
tell
grow
anything.
as it needs. Yeah, auto scale. And now all of a sudden you get your bill at the end of the year month, and you're like, "Uh oh, what happened?" And so they don't pay attention to those things because they're like, "Well, it just worked. I mean, it runs." So, but you're not paying attention to cost, and so
Do you
a
think
lot
that's just
a lot of those little nuances they can do with some data modeling and just some like business understanding ahead of time. So that, for me, that's a big gap, I think.
can you blame the people, or you just think that's the way that technology? You think blame the vendors of like, well, they made it so easy
It's
that
both. It's definitely both, but you have to take the ownership as the individual doing the work to make sure that you're like cognizant of what the impact is going to be to the business. So the vendors definitely made it easy for them. They understand, sure, go ahead, auto scale, provide all these things. They're in business to make money and provide a solution. So they made it easier for them to make money, which is fair. I don't blame them for it. It's the responsibility of the user to make sure that you're as as the business I'm working for to make sure I'm being, cost sensitive or price sensitive, because it's no longer a license anymore. That's what SQL Server got. Like, that's why people moved away from it. Their licensing structure became cost prohibitive for a lot of smaller companies.
Pay for
And
what you use, huh? Real
yep,
world.
and now
Instant.
it's, if you use it, you pay for it. If you don't, fine, you don't. So
Are you using AI to write your SQL? Some 50%, 80%, 100%,
um,
25%.
I
Tell the
don't
truth.
I don't use AI to write my SQL. I'll use AI to help with my Python to some extent, because that's where I didn't jump into that until the last 5 to 6 years. Real heavy the last 4 years was more my Python, like the life that I've lived Python. My SQL experience was definitely, I have enough where I can get by, and it's not, I'm not missing anything. Some of the new things that are coming out, maybe I'll use it. So probably 10 to 15% in terms of like testing something from a SQL perspective, but more from a Python perspective, especially like PySpark and those types of things. I'll play with it a little bit more just to give me understanding. It's the breadth of Python and Spark, and that environment is so deep. I don't know all those functions. I'm not going to know them off the top of my head. Tell me anybody that is like has everything by memory that they're not going to like. I remember I used this one time. I'm going to go Google it. Or almost everybody does that, and it's the world we live in, and it's okay. You don't have to be an engineering savant anymore in order to be like proficient at Python development or SQL development. The world is at your fingertips effectively nowadays.
It seems like a lot of people are having a hard time with that. What I see online, you have like two cadres of people that like the super hardcore, and I have friends like that, that super hardcore developers, they refuse to use it. They think everything that's produced is crap. And then you got the other side where it's like, I use it 100%. And then you probably have most of us that are in the middle that's like,
Yeah,
you need to learn stuff, but also if you keep riding that horse, the train will leave you behind because
you need a foundation, but the technology evolves so fast. I can't keep up with all the new things right off the top of my head. So I definitely use technology to help me learn it, and guide me to some extent.
speaking of analytics, going back to analytics, what do you think of like Databricks one stuff you've seen in Snowflake? It seems like I don't know. I don't. I've been around analytics a lot. I don't know. I don't know. You've seen all these AI tools, just like, and I've used them. Like, generate me this chart, just make this chart for me, make this dashboard. Like, it seems like I feel like analytics can change a lot. I feel like I see a lot of marketing hype around that stuff. And I think it's cool. I've used that stuff to generate dashboards. Just ask a AI chatbot to and ask it a question that you would write a SQL query for, right? Or
Hmm.
tell it to make you this dashboard or make you this chart. And it seems like the possibilities there. And I see a lot of marketing hype around it, but I don't feel like I actually see a lot of people actually using it like day to day. I don't see people talking about using it day to day. I don't actually see that in the data community, right? Because I watch that community, what people talk about, what they're writing about. I don't see people writing about like using AI for analytics yet. I see a lot of hype, companies,
I think there's a
this
lot of
stuff.
hesitation around using AI for analytics, simply due to the fact that people aren't sure of what questions you ask.
Sure,
And
makes sense.
if you're having to put something in there that's domain specific,
Mm-hmm.
your questions into those AI environments, ChatGPT, Claude, whatever, are basically public domain now.
And
And so
there's a what? So like that makes sense. And is it going to be like the non-deterministic part of AI? Is like, is it just hallucinating this chart? Like,
right.
is this actually real?
So the environment in which I've seen it provide solutions that I feel I was comfortable with accepting and it gave me something good was using Genie inside of Databricks because it's only using the data that it has available to it, and it's consolidated. It's isolated. It's not domain knowledge. It's in your Databricks environment and it's there. And so it's got the context to use the information that you're providing. The what we I feel what we were missing at Rippleshot is the metadata around all the data, like the tagging, all that information in order to allow
Mm-hmm.
the AI to do its job efficiently and accurately. Because you still get into the situation, even at small companies, sales calls a customer one thing and product calls a customer another thing, and they don't match. And now you're asking for a solution. The governance isn't there, so the AI is like, well,
Mm-hmm.
which one do I pick? I'm going to go with this one, and we'll assume that it's right. And it for one audience it is, and for the other one it's not. So that's still that to me that's still a huge gap in the data environment is governance. Governance right now, I read an article about it today, and I agree with the gentleman. Governance is still just documentation. It's not being applied at a business level, and people aren't accepting it and following the rules. It's still it's on paper, but it's not in.
I think that's what they call semantic layer nowadays.
That's part of it. That is like you're trying to build that. Your semantic layer is like your data dictionary, right? That's what we would have. Um,
It's interesting because, and I think I used to be a business intelligence engineer. I had that title at one point in my life, and I would say the problems we're describing is like, well, why aren't people using AI more for analytics, and why hasn't that taken off like as for the coding of Python, for example, or just writing code? And it seems like the difference is compared to just a normal developer. Not that this isn't the case, but in analytics, especially in data, especially, it's a very human centric. It always has been. Like a decade ago when I was working in analytics, it really wasn't about the hard part was not making a Tableau dashboard. It was actually like taking knowledge out of like somebody's head in some other department or five other departments and like, no, what actually is, what's the definition of XYZ to you and what is it to you, and coming up with a common definition and documenting it. So, right, that was always the hard part of data and analytics before, not necessarily, oh, I just need to make this dashboard with a bunch of stuff on it. I mean, that's
yeah,
a hard part of it, but it's not.
making sure you have a ubiquitous language. I learned that big word from one of my former coworkers back in the day, Fred Galoso. Ubiquitous language, so common term for the same thing across the entire organization, and it's difficult because there are nuances to those things, and so you just have to make sure that one you have the dashboards aren't being used interchangeably if the definition is different between two different environments. And it's okay that what a customer is for you and what a customer is for me are potentially two different things. They could be for sales and product for sure. You just can't use the same report to expect the same answer and be like, well, this isn't right. Well, it is, but it's not for you. It's for them. Um, that's definitely. And then the other piece is you're talking about like analytics. It's no longer a pay for play type of environment. Analytics are now table stakes. These Databricks, Snowflake, these bigger environments are starting to make it available without it being an additional add-on. And so the companies like Tableau and
What
even
are they going to do in 10 years?
that's a great question because their licensing structure is basically taking them out of the game because these big guys, especially Databricks, um, the new behemoth on the market is like, yeah, it's just part of the
Yeah,
environment.
we'll
Go
give you a
for
dashboard. Yeah, go ahead.
it. You should be doing that. We want you to do that. Guess what? I'm just going to charge you for the consumption, which again they do, which is right, but I shouldn't have to pay to produce it. So it'll be interesting. In my opinion, Tableau's gone downhill significantly since they were purchased by and consumed by Salesforce. It just changed. It changed the landscape for sure. Um,
Speaking of Databricks and Snowflake, as someone who's used both of them,
yeah,
try to put them in buckets. Like, why would where and why should you use Snowflake, and where and why should you use Databricks, and where do they cross over? Where do they not cross over
I
from your
can't speak
perspective?
to Snowflake from like an infrastructure perspective. I haven't had to stand up clusters or produce that side of it,
Hmm.
but from a usability perspective, I there's it's not like the work I'm doing right now as a consultant is more on the analyst side of things. Think of it that way. And from a usability perspective, from a query generation and running, it's apples to apples. I don't see a whole lot of difference. I can't compare the two in terms of like performance because I don't have the data in both environments. But just as a user, having 4 years of Databricks experience, having to jump into Snowflake with no experience, I didn't feel like I was like having to learn to walk again. It was literally almost the exact same environment, minus the logo in the top left corner. The menu is slightly a little bit different, but a lot of the features are there. There's notebooks, there's worksheets, there's workspaces, there's an AI ML type of environment, there's dashboarding in Snowflake similar to Databricks. Again, I haven't used all the features, but just writing SQL and running SQL statements, it's it's very, very, very comparable. I'm sure the differences are as you get more in depth in
Yeah, I'm
some
sure. Hmm.
fine tune areas. ML flow on the Databricks side. I don't know the ML environment for Snowflake's environment, but I'm sure there are some differences there, and you'd expect it to be, right? Databricks was specifically created and is designed from like an ML AI type of environment where Snowflake was created as
Classic data, and you just.
the like new modern data warehouse environment
Hmm.
from a consumption perspective as opposed to a licensing perspective.
Do you still
Um,
call it a data warehouse, or do you call it a lake house, or like
I still I don't know why, but
if you
mentally I
had a
still
if you
think
had
of
a new
Snowflake as
person
a data warehouse.
data
Yeah,
warehouse? I was gonna
yeah.
say if you had a new person that came in and sat next to you, fresh
It,
out of college,
do,
and they
doing
said,
a
"What's a
lot.
data warehouse? What's a lake house?
Mhm.
What would you say?"
Data warehouse is definitely more focused on structured data, whereas your lakehouse is a combination of both structured and unstructured data to be able to use from a technology perspective. I know Snowflake can consume unstructured data as well, but they just have the. In my mind, it is more a data warehouse than a lakehouse. That which is what I think of when I think of Databricks.
So if you were designing a brand new data store, would you still use like fact dimension? How would you like on Snowflake? Would you use fact dimension? Would you just use, a lot
So
of people talk about
yeah,
Databricks, kind of
yeah,
medallion
the
architecture,
medallion architecture, bronze, silver,
quote
gold.
unquote. I know Joe Reese is coming out with a new book on data model. It'd be interesting to see his. I think it's his next book. His data model. I'll be see because I just feel like it's been this dead. I know we already talked about it a little, but it was such a big thing back in the day, right? Like
But
data
data
modeling,
modeling
and
still has to be there, and so fact and dimension is more of
but
a.
does it? That's what I'm saying. Does it really have to be there? Like
It should.
it should
If,
be.
if you want your build to be uncontrollable, sure, don't model anything. Just create it how you think you want to create it and let it do its thing, and it is what it is. You can save your company money if you're doing it the right way, which is modeling, which is fact and dimension. You don't have back in the day, like the you named everything. This is my fact table. This is my
Hmm.
dim table. And it helped people understand from a modeling perspective, you can still structure it that way without that naming convention. And it's okay.
Because
Because
medallion architecture is that really, right? It's like a staging
effectively, right?
table.
Because your bronze is your raw data. You've just put it into we'll talk Databricks perspective. You put it into the bronze layer, which means it's just in an S3 file that Databricks has ownership of, as opposed to the S3 file or the SFTP location where you pulled the file from originally. And so you have the original there if you need to like reprocess or backfill something because something went wrong. Your silver is effectively your fact and your dimension tables. that you've now done some transformation. Your business logic is turn getting rid of duplicates. You're normalizing your data types. All of those things are in the silver layer, and your gold layer is effectively what your analytics platform or your end users are consuming, because it's your aggregations and your next level in terms of like normalization or what's the word I'm looking for? Transformations, right? You need from a specific business unit or business area to see the data as they need it, as opposed to what the middle transformations in terms of like cleaning up your data, which is where your silver stuff sits. But those are your fact and dimension tables in your silver, and then you have your data marts at the end. I mean, so effectively the structure is all the same. It's just named differently nowadays. So
And data modeling is like sort of a logical exercise too, right? It's not only to improve queries, like you said, so partitioning is correct and
yep.
data is deduplication, normalization, like you talked about, but it's also like it's a mental model too. It's, useful as a data model to agree, like, this is how we model our data. This is how we talk about our data. This is because it makes you're less likely to have bugs downstream and inconsistencies in the analytics later if there's an agreed upon data model, right?
Right. So if you've decided from a business that this is the information we need, we know these are our query patterns. Okay, fine. We'll partition on these things if we need to. Liquid clustering takes away some of that a little bit nowadays with Databricks. You don't have to partition; it will effectively decide what is the best for you. But yeah, you start with the business end and work your way back to the raw data to get each layer that you want. That, in my opinion, that's the best approach, as opposed to start with my raw and just force everything down to the end and then deal with it over there.
Speaking of business, since you've probably been in a place most of your career where most people haven't, like working with a business and analytics, like give people your perspective of like how technology and data and analytics should interact with a business. What are your like lessons learned? What's the hard parts? What's the easy parts? What do people get wrong? What do they get right? Because it's not I would say this is the hardest. This is why I never, like, even though I dabbled in analytics in the beginning, so I got away from it, because I generally don't like people, and like that's not good if you're gonna work in analytics, because
If you're
that's arguably the most important part of the job in analytics and data.
if you're in analytics, you are effectively a customer facing entity, because your customers are either internal or external. And so you have to be able to have those conversations and get to the answers of what actually matters, as opposed to what on paper they are saying matters. It's still a big problem in analytics nowadays where, and we talked about this earlier, is everything always ends up in Excel. Excel is the last mile for every business solution, no matter what. I don't care what people say. That is my opinion. I've seen it. I've lived it. Oh, that's great. This is a wonderful dashboard. How can I get it in Excel? It's like, well, what are you doing with it in Excel? Well, I'm doing some additional analysis. I'm doing all these things. Well, it's, to me, it still feels like you're developing something. So you didn't tell me exactly what you truly wanted. You told me what you wanted in order for you to do your analytics work, which sometimes is necessary. But you're also getting to a point nowadays where you have these environments where the analytics solution is now available to you to do that stuff instead of pushing it to Excel. You can save your own dashboard. You can create the next iteration of what you were effectively wanting, but you didn't tell me you really wanted, because you wanted to do it in Excel. So that's still a hard part from the business user perspective. They don't want to truly tell you like what my actual outcome is, because I want it in Excel and then I want to go do my thing with it. Technology, Databricks, Snowflake is getting to the point where instead of it going to Excel, they can do those in that environment. And now you have versioning, now you have history, now you have, you can track those things instead of, okay, which final version of the Excel file do I actually want to send? Is it right? Did I do something wrong? Now there's you have to worry about human error. Whereas if they can do it themselves inside the environment, you're sort of protected or isolated from those sort of errors. But it's still always about just having a conversation, similar to what we're doing right now, just understanding like, where have you been? What do you want? What does this mean? How important is this? And then for somebody who's in analytics, it's then taking that information and translating it back to either your data engineers, your software engineers to say, okay, this is what the business needs. We don't have this. Can we get it? Or it is here, but we're not surfacing it from an analytics perspective. So that's not in the silver layer, or that's not in my dim and fact tables. It needs to get there. It lives in raw. I know we have it. It's in these other places, but they can't get to it. Oh no, they don't. No, see, that's where the disconnect's at. Is the data analysts or analytics engineers are the ones that typically have to do that translation from tech to business or business to tech, and they're that conduit between the two in order to allow both environments to like coexist.
Seems like that's the hardest part, like especially from the business, like
Sure.
pulling the unsaid rules, I don't know, just pulling whoever it is, product, marketing, sale, it doesn't matter, just like pulling even the C-suite and just pulling their idea of what they want, what they need, somehow getting it.
This is my most important thing, but I didn't tell you. You're just supposed to assume and understand that. No, just tell me what you want. I'll tell you if we have it. If we don't have it, can I get it? Yes or no?
And then working with the grumpy engineers, right?
Yeah, we live that environment a little bit because ORMs would always like complicate things because the SQL queries weren't ideal. Some data lived in certain places. It was so disparate. When you have like 400 microservices, all these like 38 different small databases living on MySQL and Postgres, and you want to like consolidate it and have all the information be in a place that's like easily reportable.
I mean, it's generally better now, right? Like the data
Databricks
world's
and Snowflake
it's a
have
better
definitely
world.
facilitated that because they can bring it all into one central location. It's some people would call it monolithic, but it's still the data still lives separately, and the engineering solutions are still doing their things at a rate in which the engineers and the business and the end users are happy because it's fast and efficient. And then from a reporting perspective, now all of a sudden it's fast and efficient. So Databricks and Snowflake have definitely like facilitated that environment much more than what was available previously. Trying to push everything into one SQL Server warehouse was it just took time. It was consuming. It was slow. It was not as
Then your
um,
analytics is somewhere else, right? And like
yes,
it's more of like I think what Databricks did well, and probably Snowflake too, is just like this idea of consolidating the data platform and like
yeah.
reducing
Well,
friction between pieces, right? Like
even just in a Databricks notebook, right?
right, what you can
You
do.
can write your query, and then you literally have the availability like instantaneous at the bottom. Oh, show me this as a chart. That did not exist. You had to go to a different environment. You had to go to SSIS, and then now I have a data mart. Now I can go to SSRS and
I did
produce
it wrong. I got to start over.
produce a report. So now it's like
I write some
instantaneous
Python code.
micro-incrementality. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's definitely changed the thought process for sure.
What would you say the differences between like tell me, you can decide how to answer this. The difference, like maybe one difference or more, the difference between like a junior data
Mm,
person, a mid-level, like what I would call like
senior.
senior, and then like I don't know if you want to call it staff or principal or like there's like
Well,
these three sets of
yep.
data people. What are the biggest differences between them? Is it just time? Like, does it just take you time and experience to get to the? Is it more than that? Is it attitudes? Tell me what you think.
I personally think it's more than that. this is the way I see it, is your entry level or your junior level data person is going to look at a problem and they're just going to go full steam ahead trying to solve it. They're going to use their technology skills. They're going to write code. They're going to be like, all right, here's the answer. Your senior person is going to be a little bit more like that analytics person. They're going to stop, think about it, understand, okay, I've done this before with the business. This is what they're asking for. This is what I need to produce. And they're going to think a little bit more in terms of like context and structure. Like, how can I do this? Does this already exist somewhere? It's just needing to be tweaked. Those entry level people, they're just like, I'm going to hammer it away and go. And that's okay.
You
That's
think that's time between like that
Yeah,
transition?
yeah, for sure. I mean, you're as an entry level, you're trying to impress. You're trying to like show that you're worth your weight in gold. Or, you can do the job. I can produce these outputs. That's what an entry level person wants to do immediately, typically.
Is there anything
You're,
they can do to accelerate their to what I would call mid level, or is it more like they just have to have experience? Is there things that you would suggest they do to move from
a lot
I
of
am actually new to like I've been around a little
a lot
bit?
of younger data people are afraid to ask questions. They don't want to feel like they don't know the answers. So that to me is like the first
Hmm.
and foremost is younger generations are that way in general. Typically, they're very self-sufficient. Technology can answer all these questions for me. Yeah, it can answer technology questions. It can't answer you business questions. It can't answer you experience. So leverage your teammates, leverage those that are around you to understand a little bit um, more from a business perspective. That's typically the difference between mid and junior, or senior and junior, is then senior understands business context, is the environment that they're in, the world that they're living in terms of like where they're getting paid and where their livelihood is at. Whereas the entry level, the junior, just is they're focused on the technology. And so then the next gap from senior to like principal or staff is that principal or staff, they are very, very much more so on the big picture idea. What does this mean in terms of cost? What does this mean in terms of performance? What does this mean in terms of longevity? Is this something that we're going to have to refactor in 3 months because we're using these old solutions? Whereas, hey, Databricks or Snowflake just came out with these new features. They're going to provide us 10x improvement if we potentially reuse, do it this way instead of the old way. So they're always constantly learning, the senior and staff, or the staff and the principal. They're always looking big picture, like, what does this look like in 2 or 3 years from now, as opposed to just like right now. The senior they may have ideas around what those are, but they're not thinking of what that bigger impact is down the road. Um, and that, again, it's just time and understanding the environment you're in and the impact of what you're doing and what it means not only for you technology wise, but what it means like for the bottom line for the company. Is this can I save the company money if I do it differently? Senior is more of, can I do this efficiently? Is it coming back fast? Is it coming back correct? Are we limiting bugs? Staff is more, where can I save the company money? Where can I make a bigger impact and cross
It,
function even?
it seems like a lot of these transitions are like based on people's willingness and ability to like separate themselves from simply being someone who writes code or does technology or is the
Yep.
smartest person in the room from a technology perspective at each of those steps. Because if you're not willing to like step back and ask bigger picture questions, it's going to be hard. I feel like that's what you're saying, and I think that's
Yes,
true. It's
agreed.
like if you are unwilling to sort of separate yourself from the technology a little bit at each of those steps to like basically come closer to the business, become closer to people, understand the impacts of the decisions you're making and
I,
long
I
term impacts. Yeah.
I know earlier on in my like DBA or data career, I was definitely seen as, I'll use the term one trick pony, right? I was, he's just a SQL guy. He
Mm-hmm.
only knows SQL Server. SQL Server is all he's going to be comfortable with. And as I matured, I had to be okay with broadening my environment to be not just Windows but Linux, and using a Mac instead of just a PC, and using the terminal as opposed to everything being in a GUI and being able to work through those different environments. I've definitely my tech stack experience has gone from Windows to Linux to from SQL to Mongo to I mean I've if you think about it, I've probably touched almost every form of technology that probably exists. Even back in college, I wasn't taking it, but I went out and bought my own um, license and like the discs and everything to like start learning C++. Installed that on my own computer, tried to do some things. It wasn't my jam, so it was what it was. But I mean, I was interested in just like how can I learn more and um, so just constantly being open to like new things and expanding your technology footprint is always going to be better for you in the long term.
Um, You've worked across a wide variety of different types of data in different environments, like small startups, a little bit bigger stuff,
Yep.
bigger places. Do you feel like a lot of the data challenges are the same between like at the core level?
Oh,
Like at a
100%.
core level, most of the problems like maybe stem from the same sort of things. Like you could take it the data quality direction. I don't know, like because there's seems like from my experience, there's very common data issues that are like what I would call like fundamental core level, and it doesn't matter if you're like at a 10,000 person company with international, like you talked about, or whether it's like 12 people. It's like
Yep.
kind of the same.
First and foremost, when it comes to data, you have to trust your source. And if you don't trust your source, so your client that you're getting the data from, you always have to be cognizant that they could be sending you garbage. You have to make sure of that. So data quality,
Tale as old as time.
data quality is always like first and foremost. And then you have to deal with your SLAs. So am I getting the data when they say they were going to send it?
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't, what's the impact? Does that impact then my clients, and do I have to make sure I'm accountable for that? But yeah, data quality is like always
That's the
it's
core,
always
isn't it? It doesn't
yeah,
matter.
it's 100% the core.
I
Um,
mean, it could be somebody could be working on a streaming system right now, but maybe 20 years ago when you were doing it, it was like a flat file, text file. But it's at the end of the day, it does it really matter? You know, what it matters is like, did they change something? I mean, that's since the day I started working in data, it's always been like that, right? Like,
yeah,
oh, somebody magically changed a file or a data, source magically changed, or this column changed from this to that, from a string to, you know what I mean? It's like the same old thing. 20 years, the same old thing. Or they didn't send it and we didn't know it, right? You'd think that that would be solved in the last 30 years, but no. Like, they didn't send it and we didn't know. Oops.
why didn't we know? Like, are we not monitoring that we didn't receive what we
Why
were?
is it? But that's my question is like, why we have these amazing platforms like Databricks, like Snowflake.
Yep.
Like, why? It's just funny to me like, there must be a reason why, like, that. And I know people will say, oh, that problem's been solved. Like, yes and no. Like, yeah, there's been things like Great Expectations, which hopefully, I mean, when I first checked it out, it's kind of, but I mean, that's still at the same time, there's still, I would say, like, if you look at the data landscape, you'd say, no, like, data access, they solved that problem with like notebooks, like, the data lake solved a lot of problems, but like, I still don't think that to me, it does not feel like a solved problem. It's still, every company you go to, they're still probably struggling with that. Like, did the data change? Did it show up? I mean, I'm sure there's people who've put in solutions and you can put in a solution, but it's just funny to me that like still after all these decades of data work, it's still those same problems that get you basically.
But that's the thing with data quality is you have to put in the solution. Nothing exists by
Yeah.
default.
Because they're not
Like,
going to make money. Well, like in theory,
right.
right? Like it's, they, they're going to work on what pays them, and that's compute, like people being able
Yep.
to run compute, right?
Yep. You need to write your scripts in order to make sure your data is correct. Your scripts are then going to consume compute, which means I'm going to get money for you doing your data quality validations and checks.
Part of it to me is like, it goes back to what we talked about all along, how like data and analytics generally is more of a, it's like heavily human involved, people involved. And what we just talked about, like, well, why has that been a problem for 20 years? Well, because every single data source is always there's no continuity, right? It always is nuances every place. Everything's a little bit different. Things are a little bit, the business logic or what they care about is a little bit different. Like it's just different. It's a people problem. It's a process problem. It's a business problem. That's like masquerading as a technology problem, if that makes sense.
Yep. Data quality is independent of every single place that you're at because the data coming in and the rules that you set for what you determine as this is good is going to be different for every single environment. So yes, it is a human problem, not a technology problem.
Another thing I wanted to ask you about was thinking about, I see this talked about a lot, or you see this like meme a lot online of like, I see this Seattle data guy, I think posted it recently, Ben, just about like, you can, and you've probably seen, I'm just curious on your perspective, so I'm sure you've like done this and have been a part of this where like, as far as analytics, like you've made, like there's 1,000 dashboards. You can make 1,000 dashboards, 1,000 for CEO, make them the most beautiful, but it's just like this continuing joke over time that like they don't use it or like they download it to Excel. They simply don't use the dashboard. Like why? Why is that a joke? Like that why is that for the last 20 years? You make a dashboard and they don't use it, you know?
I tip in my experience, the biggest reason is they ask for a dashboard because that's their focus at that point in time.
Sure.
And so then it takes me time or it takes the business time to understand the business requirement, create the pipelines to produce the data to then produce the dashboard. And then once the dashboard's ready, they've already moved on to something else. Their interest is now some other environment or some
Other
different
fire
product
came
or
up.
some other fire. And so now you've produced the dashboard and they don't go back and it's like, well, that's not important to me anymore. And so so it was a priority 3 weeks ago, but now it's not a priority now that you have it available at your fingertips. That's one. The other one is as we talked about, fine, I produced the dashboard, but they may use it once a month and all they do is go download it and put it in Excel and then they do everything else there. And so it's the dashboard again.
Or it's wrong once and then they'll never trust it
Right.
again.
To them, the dashboard, well, correct, because they'll download it once and they need it was an ad hoc query effectively. So you don't really need a dashboard. You just needed data for this question that they wanted to have. But they said create a dashboard for it. I think that's probably the biggest reason why you have this junkyard of dashboards that live in all these environments is 95% of them are probably ad hoc requests, which is I need this run one time. But instead of telling me you need it run one time, I need this dashboard for this problem that we have. We're going to use this. Well, yeah, you're going to use it when it's there and you ran it once and it gave you your answer and now you've moved on to something else. So that's why these environments now with like the AI BI Genie space inside of Databricks, you can go write your SQL query.
They can just go ask the question.
Yeah, potentially. Actually, yes, you're right. They can literally natural language ask the question. How much did we have in revenue last week? What were our sales? How many customers are
Will
no
it be
longer?
right? I don't know, but they can ask.
That's what we talked about. The metadata has to be there in order for that genie or that AI space to understand, yes, I'm getting the right context and the right information. They can ask the question. It could be wrong, but you didn't ask me that. You can go ask. You can still ask the question.
It's funny that you mentioned something when you're just talking that like has always stuck with me, and it's about like those, like what's hot. They just ask somebody, it's hot. And it seems like that's specific to analytics and data, where it's like this constant flow of like, I don't know, some C-suite person says something to like somebody product or whatever, and all of a sudden it's like, I need to know this like now. Like I want this answer, I want it now. But it's different in 2 days, and they already had told you something like 3 days ago that they needed now. Like, hey, it's like this never-ending stream of like.
When the exec team asks for something, that is like number one priority. And then you go do that, and now they're asking for something else in 2 days, and now that's number one priority. So how do you solve that cycle of things constantly being priority just because it came from the guy at the top? I don't know.
That's where we need that, like you talked about, that more senior staff principal data person that's been around a long time that can like sort of like filter the nonsense from the like some sort of they have to derive some sort of like calm out of the chaos of constant data,
Constant firefighting.
constant firefighting. They need to be able to look at the data platform, the analytics as a whole, and say, what does a business at its core care about? Like, how do we solve that? How do we answer those questions before we do anything else? You know what I mean?
Right. Do we have the most important data living in an environment that somebody can use
Mm-hmm.
at their fingertips?
Do we have data quality? Do we know when
Right.
something's missing? Is it right generally? Exactly. Yeah.
Well, we've talked about some of the old school data people. Um, the interesting part
Yeah.
is
Let's talk about the new. Just don't include me. I want to know what you
like
think
a
about
lot of the new data people that I like follow
like
are
who? Like, let's talk about
the
people.
Seattle data guy for one.
Ben's awesome. He's a
Yep.
cool guy. He gave me my like that guy is so nice. People do not know how nice he is. He like years ago he went out of his way to be nice to me and like let me collab with him on Substack and like he's a super nice guy and I have a lot that I owe him on my platform because he would let me write articles and post, you know, and I mean he's got probably well over 100,000 followers, right? So like such a nice guy. Um I actually people what I want to know what you think about Zach Wilson. I mean, he's been nice to me. I know a lot of I see a lot of people hating on him on like Reddit and it's like
Well,
look
the
the
thing
guy's
with
like
this
them
one is
it's
the
American dream. He made a business, he sold it to people, they seem to be
yep.
happy. Like I think
So
people just hate his success, right?
one, people hate other people's success because they're wanting it, and it's hard work. He didn't get there by doing
Yeah, no
nothing.
crap, right? People have no
He
idea.
listen to his story, right?
I
Hey,
don't make any money doing
I
this
was
and
a
I work
drug
hard.
addict. I was doing all these things. I was horrible. I got my life right. I found my purpose
Hmm.
and I pursued it. I think the other reason that people hate on him is the fact that some of his classes are cost prohibitive.
That's
And fine,
fine. It's
I
like some
agree with
people
him.
buy BMWs, right? Like
Right,
some people buy Chevys.
he makes the statement: if you're going to do this, I'm setting the price at what I think is going to provide you ROI.
Hmm.
And if you think the cost is too much, then it's not right
You
for
probably
you.
never would have finished it anyways, right? If you wanted it for
Right.
$100, you were probably gonna do 5 minutes and never come
Sure,
back.
but I looked at one of his like so in this interim where I've been unemployed, right, laid off. It is what it is.
By the way, if people wanna, Tom's been doing data. Tom taught me a lot of stuff about data. I learned a ton about all the everything I know about analytics. I learned from Tom. About SQL Server, I learned from Tom. If people want to get a hold of you, I'll just leave links to like your LinkedIn and the show notes and the comments wherever this goes. There'll be a link to Tom's LinkedIn. Is that where you want them to reach out to you? If,
Yeah, that's fine. That'll work. But yeah,
anyways, Bat, go ahead. You were telling a
one of
story
his
about Zach.
classes is like $8,000. And so I think that's where people are like, it's just not reasonable. I mean, fine, it's not reasonable for you, but it's reasonable for all the people that are paying for it and think that it's valuable. For somebody like me who's unemployed, I can't afford to do that. So I would love to like he had some free stuff out there that I don't think he's maintained, and that's okay. You know, fine. You want something that's going to pay you back for your time. He's putting a lot of time into what he's done, uh, and he seems like a very nice guy. Super super smart. So I definitely like take information from like just his content
Hmm.
that he posts, and I'm learning as much as I can from all of these guys. The other I can't pronounce his last name.
I love talking about people when they're not here. Who are we going to talk about next?
Who is I can't I don't know why I can't pronounce his last name for some reason. Josue
Yeah, the Databricks dude.
Ogren. I
Yeah,
don't. I,
yeah, super nice guy.
yeah,
Super. He's
I
like,
haven't
I
talked
love
to
the
him.
dude.
I haven't watched any of his podcasts, but I learn a lot from some of the content that he
I've
puts.
texted him before. I have his number in my phone. I have his number in my phone.
I'm pretty sure you probably have a lot of people's numbers in
No,
your phone
I do
that
not. But
you've been
I do have his. I do have
you've
his.
been creating content since what 2008, if
I don't
not
know. Too long. I don't want to think about it. You know?
blogs, podcasts, you name it. So yeah,
Confessions of a Data Guy. That's the OG.
which one?
Confessions of a Data Guy. That's the
That
OG.
was the
That's
first
like
one.
before Substack. You know?
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, I have that one for sure. I definitely follow those because they're all out there, and I can go back and look at historical stuff. Um,
Yeah, he's awesome. He's got a ton of Databricks. He seems like he's very like I like honest people that are
He
real and
seems very
honest
down to
and
earth.
down to earth or not weird, just
Like
totally
I
down to
love that
earth.
his like calling card is
Yeah.
his orange hat.
I need a calling
Like,
card. What's my calling card?
your calling card is
Sasquatch?
your red beard.
Sasquatch?
Your beard.
Bigfoot? Oh, the
Well,
beard? Yeah.
yeah, your beard is definitely like your calling
So
card.
you're saying I need to grow it out and
Well, I think for me, I know you as the guy with the beard, at least
fair.
from a data perspective.
So do I need to change the name to like bearded data guy?
Introduction to Databricks video.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah. Alex, the analyst. I don't know him at
yeah,
all. He's
yep.
huge.
Yeah, he's definitely grown. His footprint's grown a lot, and I get again, analytics engineer, senior analyst. I definitely put
What
a lot of
about the DuckDB and Metaho? DuckDB,
oh,
DevRel. He's
he
awesome.
wears a hat as well, right?
Yeah, he's the best. He's got
Yeah,
great content. Super down to earth guy.
great content. I've never like I do more reading than I do listening, so podcasts or videos. Your stuff I follow just because I've known you for years and we've worked together.
Liar.
So, no, I do.
Yeah, there's a lot of. It's hard because there's a lot of. I follow a lot of people on LinkedIn. There's just a lot. There's a lot of people starting to write, especially with Substack. It's hard to. That's always one thing I've tried to do. I feel like if you're not working with someone smarter than you, I remember being at your house on a Saturday watching you fail over a SQL Server cluster, and I was like, "Oh my God, are we all gonna die? It's gonna
SQL
break."
SQL Server mirroring. Yep, we yeah, that was I remember that.
It's hard to keep learning, but it's important to keep doing
I
things that are uncomfortable, right? Like
you,
uncomfortable
you,
in the sense of
you,
like I feel
if
like I
you
don't know what I'm doing.
if you're not learning, you're not growing, and if you're not growing, you're dying. So that's at least one of the mottos I always live by. So
But what
I've
if you
got
want to retire? Then is it okay to kind
I'm
of like slowly float off into the
just off to
sunset?
my right. I have like a stack of books here. What AI partner blueprint, data governance, data engineering design
Hmm.
patterns,
Who's
data
that one
model.
by?
Which one?
Data engineering design patterns. Is that what you said?
That is.
Oh, that's the Bart. I think I might. Yeah, I might interview him.
Yep.
I've been trading messages. Yeah,
I
super
even
cool
have
guy. He's got good
I
content.
even have functional programming with Scala. And,
Scala. Scala's
uh,
dead. People don't like me saying that, but Scala's dead. You don't hear about it anymore. It's like, yeah, I know it's Spark and whatever, but it's
yep.
just like, give
Is
it
it
up,
Spark
man. It's
written in
done.
Scala?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the JVM, yeah, so a lot of it.
And then I've got some of my data analytics books, so storytelling with data and
Mm.
whatnot. But and then on my other side, I've got two more. What is it? The Staff Engineer's Path.
Oh, man, that's so good. Do you like that one? I like that. I
I
liked how
haven't
she
started that one.
interviewed people.
I haven't started this one. I was listening to the
Will Larson, who's the
Will
best in the
Larson
world.
Staff Engineer on audio on
Oh,
Audible.
isn't that good? So
Right now,
good.
that one's good. Yep. And then Deciphering Data Architecture. So
What's that one? Show me that one.
that one is by James Serra.
Yeah, I've seen that one around. My problem is like I read a ton, but like if I showed you my books, I can't reach them. They're over by mine. But like I'm reading
Yeah,
about the American Revolution. I'm reading like World War II stuff now. Like I read a
gotcha.
lot of history, and I do try to read some technical books, but
Well, when you're looking for a job, these are the books that you tend to like put your effort and energy into as opposed to like fiction stuff right now. So,
Will Larson came out with a new book I just started reading too, like another one.
oh, I think I got that one
It's
um,
good. He's
on
great.
Kindle. That is the Crafting Engineering
Hmm.
Strategy.
Yeah.
Yep. So yes, I got books everywhere. They're all over the place. So yeah, I've definitely like dove into back to learning as much as possible to make myself as marketable as possible. So
I'm writing a new book, and
I've been reading a few of your chapters, and it's just taking me some time to like stay focused on that when I'm
it's
trying to do
hard.
things.
It's
Oh,
hard. It's
good.
funny. I write for a living, like my Substack, and
Yep.
writing a book is different, man. It's like research. It's hard to like find the fine line between like I just need to get all this out of my head into a chapter, and then like do I move on or do I go back and massage it? It's just like a never ending. It's terrible. It's a terrible thing.
Well, I'm
I do not suggest it.
writing is not something I have like really dived into, which proves because I gave you an article around Excel and Databricks, and you're like, nope, which is fair. I am not a professional writer. I don't write a lot, so I just took a stab at it. And yours was much more in depth. I love your demeanor when you write. I love your humor. I love your just like sarcasm and satire around some of these things instead of it being
Yeah,
just like dry. So I'll definitely take your article and look at mine and see where I can definitely improve. So but writing helps you learn.
yeah, it does. Because you have to like
I've learned that.
understand something.
I've learned that from you. So,
Like you have to understand something about what you're writing about a little bit.
yep,
If you're not using AI, which I don't. So it's like you actually have to spend a couple minutes. Like, do I actually understand this? You know?
yep. No, you definitely call out some nuances, and it's you find nuances when you actually start to write because you actually have to pay attention to it as opposed to just being on the surface. So,
Well, thanks for taking time to talk to me today. I appreciate it.
well, thanks for putting me in the same category as some of the other people you talk to. So that means a lot because I'm definitely not the smartest person in the room, but so it's good to be included.
Yeah, you got a good perspective. You've worked in data a long time. You've seen a lot of technology changes. I've learned a lot of stuff from you. Yeah,
I've lived a lot of technology changes for sure. So
I'll leave a link to your LinkedIn profile wherever this ends up going to lots of different places, YouTube, podcast, wherever. It'll be linked to Tom's profile if you want to talk to him, whatever. So appreciate it. Thanks, Tom.
absolutely, Dan. Thank you very much for having me.
Mhm.